Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we'll be talking about the upcoming new patch and the connected event, as well as giving you my first impressions of the new Espers we'll be getting. First off, the game will be taken offline on the 21st at 7 AM UTC+0, and this maintenance will roughly last for 2 hours. As well as every level 5+ player, which, well, let's face it, most of us are at this point, will receive 200 Nexus Crystals for the inconvenience. It's some free stuff, I'll take it, say no more. First, let's talk about the new Espers. They are actually my least favourite thing about the update, but they're still a significant aspect, so let's talk about them. The new Legendary Esper we'll be getting is Ahmed, or better known by his golden name, Gib, a Winter type healer Esper with a unique ability to restore HP ceiling damage. Looking at his abilities, his S1 skill is pretty similar to Clara in that it deals damage to a single enemy and then heals an ally. Noteworthy is that the healing scales both of Ahmed's attack and maximum HP, although the ratios have not been revealed outside of the test server. His S2 skill is a passive skill and the most significant part of his kit. It will trigger every time that you use a healing ability of his, and it will heal the Esper with the lowest HP on your team, while at the same time restoring a percentage of the maximum HP ceiling damage, if applicable of course. He will also apply a unique buff that increases the attack of the Esper healed in this manner by 2%, as well as removing a disease debuff, again if applicable, once this ability is ascended. It is noteworthy that the attack increase buff is unique and undispellable. Let's get to his S3 skill. Upon casting, it will reduce the cooldowns of all your Espers by 1 turn, as well as heal the Espers with the lowest HP an unspecified number of times. Overall, this Esper seems to be along the lines of the other legendary healer Esper, Clara. Although due to the HP ceiling damage restoration being a rather niche thing in PvE, although quite useful in a few stages, for example the current month's floor 35 of the Temporal Tower, I don't think you'll see too much use there, again outside of those few situations. And during fights in Point War or Holo Battle, usually those fights are over a bit too quickly for the HP ceiling damage to really be a significant hindrance into the outcome of the fight. As with the last new Esper that we got, Ollie, this release will give us a new banner to give us an increased chance of receiving Ahmed. They did decrease the heart pity down to 450 pulls, although I personally think this is still a bit too high. Saving up even 120 rackets for a guaranteed pity for these events takes a lot of farming or spending money, and I think having to do it basically 3.5 times is just a bit much. Every time that you pull a Legendary Esper, you will have a 10% base chance of pulling him. I will be trying to pull him on my main account, although I've nowhere near 450 pulls to make it a guarantee. And if I do, I'll be giving you some more first-hand thoughts and experiences that I'll be having when using him. On to the second and only other Esper that we'll be getting with this update. It's Stewart, with the god Dionysus, and he's an epic Inferno Esper. His skill 1 is just regular damage to one enemy, but it has a chance to apply sleep to the enemy. Sleep is a disability that gets removed upon the target taking damage, so it's not the best sort of control that we can get out of any Esper. His S2 is rather similar to his S1 in that it deals damage to a single target, and it applies sleep when the target falls below an unspecified HP percentage. His S3 skill is a bit more complicated in that it deals damage at the expense of Stewart's own HP, similar to Charmer for example, and he also deals damage based on the enemy's max HP, which again is capped by his own attack. The other twist here is that he puts himself and the target to sleep afterwards, and once sended, this skill will automatically counter-attack with his skill 2 once he gets woken up from the sleep induced by this skill. Due to him being a damage dealer with a bit of control in his kit, I could see him being used in tower progression or story, similar to Sander, although unfortunately he shares the same type as Sander, and honestly I think Sander is still a better choice, which generally means you won't be using both of them at once. In regards to Point War or Hero Battle, he might see some use, because control is always useful there, but it will probably be primarily for his S1 skill, depending on the sleep chance. Alongside the new Espers, we'll be getting a new event that will last 2 weeks. During this event, we will be able to passively accumulate Nexus Crystals and Gold by completing a specific stage of the event multiple times, up to 3 I believe. And due to this being capped behind actually completing the stage, I do recommend going for that as soon as you are able to. Additionally, we will for the first time be able to get our hands on an item that will reset the stats or the substats of a relic. This can be particularly useful to reset the stats of any of your flawless relics from maybe a relic boss like Fafnir, which farming is a lot more tedious than Kronos or Apap, and will give you slight chance to get maybe a better relic, although it seems to be capped at only 3 or 4 times during the event. During the event, we will also be able to get some more Nexus Crystals and Golden Records by completing the various stages. It's free stuff, why not go for it? And now let's get to the juicy bits of the patch notes. There are actually quite a few changes that might have flown a bit under the radar, so let's go through the significant ones. I will not be going over all of the changes, but I will be linking the full patch notes in the description, so check that out if you're interested. First, we will now be able to revisit the side stories of Espers that we've encountered via completing their bounties. While this is not really a mechanic that gives us any benefit, for those of us who do enjoy reading through the stories, this is definitely more than a welcome feature. We will also be getting new side stories for 2 new Espers, one being Celine and the other being the newly introduced Esper Amit. Third, we have an optimization to the Esper level up screen via the usage of Experimon. The Experimon now get a different star value to show their rarity as well as a new color, which will finally, and I mean finally, this has been really annoying, allow us to differentiate between the elite and special Staramon at a glance. They also, according to the patch notes, have removed the cap for the batch usage of Experimon, which will certainly save us some time every time we want to level up our Espers this way. The fourth part is a small one, but could be useful especially for newer players, in that the practice stage in story mode now unlocks after stage 3 rather than 5. The Cube Shop will now also refresh every 14 days rather than 16, bringing it more in line to the refresh times of other mechanics, although still being at twice as long as, for example, the Point War Shop. Another very welcome update is that we will be getting an indicator on the relic displays showing us how many base substats they have, meaning not the amount of substats that we have on the relics upgraded, but the ones they had at +0, making it a lot easier to see which ones are flawless and superior. Besides these changes, there are a couple of balance changes to a few Espers, so let's go through them quickly. I will not be going into the details of these, so if you want to know more about these, please check out the patch notes in the description below. First off, we have Tang Xuan, or Sun Wukong, who now deals more damage with his skill 1 to the secondary targets. Second, we have Taylor, or Hercules, who now gets a shield when he uses skill 1, as well as having the previously ascended bonus of his skill 3 now inherently in it, and getting a new ascension bonus of reducing the cooldown of this skill by 1 turn if the enemy that he attacked has not been defeated via it. The third Esper getting an update or a balance is She Yuzi, who will now be stealing double the amount of AP on the first hit of a skill 3 and increased debuff durations on the target with the second hit. Zelma or Zekmet will be getting a rather significant nerf in that her S3 skill's bonus damage for the debuffs on the enemy will now cap out at 6 debuffs. Unki Chai, Yu Lao's S3 ability will no longer be applicable to cooldown reduction or increases via Esper abilities. Ira or Freya now has a 25% chance to gain an extra turn rather than a 70% chance to gain a speed up on her S1. Her S2 now also reduces cooldowns by 1 turn on the targeted Esper. The description for a unique buff now says cannot be debuffed. I am unsure if this refers to the buff being undispellable or if the holder cannot receive debuffs while holding it. And that is all that we can expect with a new patch. Do keep in mind I left out some minor patch notes, and the patch notes regarding the clubs and holo battles, as these are mostly flavor rather than mechanics. As well as, of course, some of the bug fixes, no need to go through them specifically. So, what do you think about this upcoming patch and the new Espers? Let me know which parts you liked, which ones you didn't like as much, and let's have a chat about it. As with the last event, you can expect a video on the actual event mechanics, should there be any content which has a bit of a difficulty for clearing it, where I'll be showing you some free-to-play teams or setups useful for clearing them. Besides this, I hope that you will have a lovely day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Cheers.